As we say. Prabhu, there's a devotee sitting at the back. Do you speak English? What is your good name? Pardon? Can you? Ananda? Ananda. Where are you from, Ananda Prabhu? England? Anglais. Are you staying here in Malaysia now? Very nice. And you met the devotees in England or here or where? In Malaysia. Wow, amazing. Which part of England is your body made? Where? Liverpool. Oh, amazing. I'm also made in England. South England. Near Bristol. Liverpool. Have you been to our farm, or the farm in Pahang? Nice. Well, thank you for coming. And others, Tatavit Prabhu and your good wife, and Kashi Mishra Prabhu and Vaishnava Kripa. Others, I don't know all of your names, but welcome this evening, a small gathering. I'm going to does everybody understand English? Can you hear my English? Sometimes the boys have a problem with my English, West Country English, and it has a little, slight difference to it, to some English. So I was going to read this evening from the Nectar of Devotion. You have read the Nectar of Devotion, haven't you? That didn't seem like a very convincing nod. Sometimes we may have read something or heard something, and sometimes we read and we don't really hear very much. And on the front of this, stand, I see you've got, what did it say? Stay calm or something? Keep calm? Keep calm. And thank you for listening or something. It sounds like, the speakers here make everyone very irritated and, you become very disturbed. Perhaps that's happening. Maybe tonight. So please stay calm. Don't get too worried. Try not to take too much offense or don't get too scared, too disturbed. But do try to hear if we can. You may experience that the process of hearing is more than just learning something. In the material world, it may also bring us some satisfaction, and we may learn something. In spiritual life, hearing topics concerning Krishna, concerning the spiritual realm, can be not interesting to some people because our consciousness is very absorbed in the material world, so topics concerning spiritual life may not be so interesting. But for those who do listen or do care to hear, the topics are very satisfying to the hearts. Tam prasangam anavirya samvido bhavanti vitkana rasayana krata. These topics are very purifying, very satisfying. They're like rasa. They're like nectar to the heart, to the ear. We like to hear, but it's in the heart we experience the pleasure of hearing topics about Krishna or related to Krishna. So hearing these things for a devotee is not just we learn something, no doubt. If we hear something we may learn, something we may apply, or it may be just something which inspires us or reminds us of Krishna. It's very, very satisfying. Tushanti cha, ramanti cha. Matjita matgada prana bodhyantak parasmara. Katyantas chamam nityam tushanti cha, ramanti cha. And Rasaparayana Prabhu, with a name like Rasaparayana, you must know what that means. Maybe you're nervous now. Stay calm, don't get too disturbed. Anybody know what it means? In English. Or in Tamil if you know it, and if someone can translate. Or whatever language you speak. French. But who will translate? You can say anything you like and nobody will know what you maybe somebody knows. Maybe Anand knows. You know French, Anand? No. So who knows? Preferably in English. What the translation is from the Bhagavad Gita. It's the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Perhaps it's verse number 9. I think number 9. Does anyone know the translation? Muchitama Gataprana Bodhyanta Parasparam. Come on, scholars. Any of you who have taken second initiation, should be one of the verses you're meant to know. I don't know if it's obligatory, it's not necessary, but it's one of the verses we should know. This verse is one of the 4 essential verses, seed verses, which capture the kind of the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. There are 4 of them, and this is the second of the 4. Eknath, you must know, you're a scholar. You're studying Bhakti. You're studying Bhakti Vaibhava or Bhakti Shastri, okay. Yeah, the thoughts of my devotees, pure devotees. They always dwell in me. Yeah, surrender to me. Very good, excellent. They derive great pleasure. Tushanti cha, ramanti cha. They derive great pleasure. Talking about me. They derive pleasure. It's hard to imagine how, but it's not so difficult. When we hear about somebody we really like, when we hear about a topic that we really like, we've all had probably in our life we've had various habits and hobbies, subjects which we like to hear about, perhaps even an academic subject maybe also. Whatever it is, but something we really want to hear about, you feel enlivened to hear about it. Perhaps you feel some inner happiness hearing about it. So we have possibly some kind of experience in this world of the effect of hearing something dear to us. If it doesn't have anything to do with us really, we may have a different effect by hearing it. It may not be the same joyful effect, it may be a sorrowful effect, or it may be a fearful effect, or an angry effect, or we may feel envious, or whatever. It may create other emotional responses. But every sound has some effect upon us. No matter what it is. We may try to be oblivious to it. That's another effect. We turn our senses off from it. We don't want to know about it or hear it. But sound has its effect on us one way or another. So spiritual sound vibrations concerning topics concerning Krishna are very, very pleasing to the ear and the heart. For those who hear in the association, particularly in the association of devotees. So we're trying to hear something tonight on the subject matter of devotional service. To be able to actually hear the topics concerning Krishna effectively, or let's say lovingly. In the beginning we may have some attraction, some faith, some sentiment, which is all good. But loving is another level. It's not just about loving to hear, but loving the person who we hear about. We're not here just to get satisfaction for ourselves, but we're here ultimately to bring satisfaction to Krishna. So whatever brings satisfaction to Krishna brings satisfaction to the devotee. So let's hear something written by one of the Lord's topmost devotees, an eternal associate of the Lord. His name is Rupa Goswami. And those who are regulars will know who Rupa Goswami is, at least in principle we know. His position amongst devotees. And this subject matter has been, let's say, presented to us in English by our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who presented it in a way which, well, it's probably difficult for most people to even digest. But it's written for those who are fortunate to hear. One of the secrets of understanding of hearing is that we really don't have much capacity to understand this subject matter, or even to hear this subject matter. It's the mercy of the Lord. He gives us this inclination. But we should develop the desire. If we have a desire, I was thinking tonight, how nice it would be if we didn't have to sleep. Now, that may not sound so nice in one sense. You probably find sleep one of the material pleasures of life. It may be a relief or something like that, but it's a sort of one of those things you may look forward to. You may wish you could stay asleep sometimes. We need sleep. Most people need sleep to keep going in their daily lives. And I was thinking, well, it's all very well to think like that, but we have to look what we do when we're awake. Then Krishna may reciprocate. Now, if we spend our time when we're awake engaged in unnecessary things, watching the news, listening to mundane music, going on to various Facebook sites just to gossip, or whatever, some subject matter which is not related directly to Krishna, then what's the point of staying awake? Better sleep. At least you don't create any more karma. Right? So if Krishna's kind, he'll make you go to sleep. Or literally you have to carry on. I was thinking like Prabhupada or Rupa Goswami, they're so absorbed, 100% absorbed in hearing and chanting about Krishna. So absorbed. They don't think about sleep, whether it's Krishna or whether it's there's simply their urgent desire, their lolium, their greed to hear about Krishna, whatever it is. They don't need to sleep practically. We do, but most people, if they don't sleep, they'll have a problem. Any medical doctor will tell us that, it's going to be a problem for your immune system, your mental balance, your nervous system. So many things will be affected. But for a pure devotee who's absorbing Krishna, completely absorbing Krishna, Krishna can make other arrangements. He doesn't want to waste his time or their time. They simply want to serve Krishna. But we have this tendency to waste our time. What to do? We all know, we've read the Bhagavad Gita at least, that Krishna says, I am time. Time I am. So when we waste time, basically we're wasting our chance to be with Krishna. Where, in one sense, somebody said this afternoon, I hadn't seen it like that, but they said it's like offending Krishna. Because Krishna is time. I wasn't seeing it like that. Somebody else said that. We can see it like that, but we've been given this human life. We have some choice what to do with it. But it's meant to be jivasya tattva jignas. It's meant to be utilized for spiritual inquiry. But if we make it only for material inquiry, then basically we're wasting valuable time. If we waste it to find faults in others, we're definitely not just wasting valuable time, we're causing problems for ourselves. We want to see how we can glorify Krishna, glorify his devotees, and there's so many ways that we can do that. So we're going to sing a little song and then we'll read now from, with the cartels, from the Nectar of Devotion. If you have it on your mobiles or whatever, you can also follow along. This one you'll also have to go on your mobile. don't know. This is Sat Goswami Astakam. We're only going to sing one verse, so make it easy. It's the second verse of the Sat Goswami Astakam. Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Nana Shastra Vicharanayaka Nipano Sadharma Lokanamittakarina Rupugane Manyo Sharanya Karo Lokanamittakarina Rupugane Lokanamittakarina Tribhuvane Anyosharanyakaro Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajano Nandena Mathato Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajano Nandena Mathato Radha Krishna Padaravinda Bhajana Nandena Mataliko Vande Rupa Sanatana Rupa Shri Jiva Gopalako Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghusamo Shri Jiva Gopalako Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu ki jai. We have the nectar of devotion in Tamil, is that correct? You have it here? As we may be aware, Prabhupada described this book as like a guidebook, like a Bible for those who wish to make the journey of bhakti marg, the path which leads, if properly followed, leads to the lotus feet of Krishna. So I'm going to read something now from this wonderful text. And we're going to start with just a few reasons what the purposes are of the nectar of devotion. I just highlighted a few of those points. And we would request you to try to read that. Try to hear it now if you can. It is only for our guidance that Srila Rupa Goswami has prepared his book, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. He doesn't need to do it. He's situated in pure devotional service. But it is his duty. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave that direction to Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami to go to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, he gave them instructions what to do. Do you remember what he told them what to do? Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis were given instructions by Lord Chaitanya directly. He told them 4 things. What were those 4 things? Excuse me? Yes, compile literatures explaining the science of devotional service. What else? To excavate, that doesn't mean dig up necessarily, but it means to recover or reveal the places of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan for the future, particularly for future generations. Okay? Not the 2 Goswamis. Not the Goswamis, no. They didn't write songs, not much. Not at all. We've got perhaps the most 2 prominent ones that come to mind. Writing the Vaishnava literatures for the guidance of future generations and uncovering the lost places of Krishna's pastimes, to establish deity worship, temples and proper Vaishnava deity worship, which they did, and to personally display, or let's say, the actual practice of devotional service, to show the process of devotional service to people in general. So these were undertaken by the Goswamis, but now we're hearing their rich literary contribution. So Rupa Goswami has prepared this book, which is now presented as the nectar of devotion for our guidance. Persons engaged in Krishna consciousness movement may take advantage of this great literature and be very solidly situated in Krishna consciousness. Very solidly situated. We're not so solid sometimes, are we? Something which is very solid doesn't get moved very easily, does it? The wind blows, but the mountain doesn't move. It's solid. If it's very, powdery, flaky, it can be blown away, it can be moved. So we may not be so solid in our devotion. It may be mixed, it may be weak, fragile, doubtful, etc. But being solid means one is fixed. And that's one of the symptoms of devotional service. It situates one in this situation beyond any kind of, say, interference. Solid. Wherever you go, it's fixed. It's not like you have a weak point. We may have our weak points, right? Somebody says something and we get disturbed. We have a weak point. Or we see something and we become attracted by it. We have a weak point. Or in our minds we have many weaknesses. We become, let's say, attracted to the thoughts of our mind, which may not be Krishna conscious ones. So in this way we have weak points. But nectar devotion is to help us to become solid. We will not be disturbed by anything that may come or go in this world. We will not be disturbed by the thoughts of our mind. As Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, you will be like a... What example does he give? He gives a few, but there's one famous one. Be undisturbed like a lamp, a flame, in a windless place. It doesn't waver. Fixed. Another example is like the ocean. Despite the fact that rivers are constantly flowing into the ocean remains still. It's not disturbed. So a devotee should be like the ocean. Not disturbed by all the rivers and various other, let's say, objective attractions. Should not disturb the devotee at all, whether they're internal or external, whether they're, let's say, from personal or from an objective point of view, some body causing us some disturbance maybe, or some object which attracts us, or whether it's a thought within, or even an experience of these threefold miseries. That's not easy, and the threefold miseries are very hard to be undisturbed in their presence. The threefold miseries, what are they? Threefold miseries. Pardon? You don't have trouble with your mind, do you? Anyone ever say that? I have so much problem with my mind. A lot of people say that, right? In devotional service, of course, it takes on a different meaning. Materially, even there, people are disturbed by their mind, even though they're absorbed in material activity. They're still, the mind being full of material desires, still gives them trouble. What to speak for one who's on the devotional, spiritual path. The mind and the body. It's not just the mind. Of course, the bodily disturbances are experienced, you could say, on the mental plane, on the subtle plane, so they are interrelated. Body and mind, usually. So. Disturbances of the body are manifold. Sicknesses, old age, death, all very disturbing for most people. It's not very easy to be undisturbed. But a transcendentalist is undisturbed even in the presence of these bodily, physical, mental disturbances or diseases. What other kinds of, let's say, sufferings or miseries, threefold miseries, what other ones? Body, mind may cause us trouble. What else? Adibhotika means what? Other living entities. It could be other human beings, probably more than anything it's other human beings whom we experience problems with. Maybe for whatever reason it is. It could be mental, physical, verbal, emotional, whatever it is. Some problems often occur. Arguments and quarrels and even wars, and so many things take place due to this. And what other living entities may cause us trouble? Pardon? Other animals, perhaps? Huh? Mice?
Bugs.
Huh?
Bugs.
Bugs? Bugs? Bugs. It's amazing how a tiny little mosquito, you can hardly see it, can cause us so much disturbance. You may or may not be disturbed, but so many people are so disturbed by a tiny little mosquito. Even a little tiny ant, especially those little teeny ones who bite, you get thousands of those on your leg and you'll really know it. Sometimes you're sat somewhere, you don't realise that you're sat on their nest. After a few minutes, you've got this tick all over you, they're biting you all over. Little teeny things, you can hardly see them. But they have so much bing, you can feel it's like a needle stuck in you. Tiny little insects. And then sometimes bigger ones, maybe even big ones, maybe if you're very, whatever, unusual, fortunate or unfortunate, you may be attacked by a shark or a lion or some really dangerous creature. Or in this country, maybe a snake. We don't get snakes here much now, do we? Do you remember in the early days? I mean, regularly, almost every day we'd see a snake here. Cobras. Several times. We were at the building, wasn't this one in those days. There's Kanagapuram also. But here, it was like a jungle around us, practically, land. And cobras curled around the front door, the gate, they were quite normal. You go to the side room of the drain, there's a deadly snake falling in the drain there right in front of us. It can be dangerous. If you don't notice it and you step on it, you could be in danger. They don't usually attack, but if you disturb them, they will. But dangerous things. Many people die of snake bites. What else? Any other living entities? Maybe subtle ghosts. People get disturbed by ghosts. Subtle. Other living entities. And the other one? Pardon? Nature, and that's called? Adidaivik. That caused by higher powers. And here in Malaysia, probably less than most countries, I'd say. Probably. You don't have too much. I mean, you may have a few floods, not so many droughts, I don't think. Maybe a bit hot. Sometimes getting too hot sometimes. But not too bad. Some places they get earthquakes, flooding, very bad flooding, droughts. Huh? Tsunamis, they go along with earthquakes usually, don't they? But it's not like a country gets it necessarily. It happens. It happened here also. 15, 20 years ago it happened here in Malaysia, tsunami. Thousands of people were killed in Malaysia in the tsunami. But that's very rare. Once in a century maybe. Earthquakes you don't get hardly in this country. Hardly. Volcanoes, I don't think so. Whatever, different types of natural occurrences in many countries. You get tremendous winds. Typhoons, cyclones, hurricanes, whatever you call it. Sometimes tens or hundreds of thousands of people can be killed in the wind. Destroys everything. Those from Philippines you know very well. Philippines is one of the most cyclone-prone countries in the world. They get everything there, right? Earthquakes, volcanoes, cyclones, flooding. They get it all. Almost. And then there's the other love, birth, death, disease, and old age. To be transcendental to these, not affected by these. And then another big one you could say caused by other living entities is war. And economic, exploitation. Exploiting people. So much cheating, exploitation goes on and people are being mistreated basically. They're not given their, you could say carnity, they're getting what they deserve, but from the practical point of view they're being exploited. Such a big way, mass way in the world. So different types of sufferings there. To be transcendental to them, yet still respond in a positive way. That's another thing altogether. When people think of transcendental or aloof from these, they think you're callous, you have nothing to do with it, you don't care less, because the soul never dies, so that it doesn't really matter. You're callous, let the war go on, let the poverty go on, let the suffering go on. But that's not how a transcendentalist sees it. He himself is not affected, but he acts in a way to help others to come to that platform also. And that may include, you could say, externals in many cases. Just like Sanatana Goswami himself would go village to village, and sometimes he would resolve differences of opinion between people on the material platform. Sometimes he would appease them for their sorrows. They've lost a dear relative or something. Sometimes he would, counsel them in various ways about marriage problems or whatever it was. He wasn't just a transcendentalist to say, this is all nonsense, forget it. He would also see that people needed this also in their lives to help them to move towards transcendence, although it's secondary. So we'll read a few more, let's say, specialities about this nectar of devotion and its purpose. Let's see. Prabhupada describes the meaning of the book, Bhakti Rasa Amrita Sindhu. Do you know what bhakti means? Bhakti? What does it mean in Malay? It's a meaning, doesn't it, bhakti? It's a word in Malay, isn't it? What does it mean? What does it mean? Service or what? It means service. So in spiritual life, bhakti means devotional service. It's got the same basic root. Rasa, what does rasa mean? Rasa just left. Pardon? Mellow, sweet mellow. Now mellow is a word not very often used in English. Hare Krishna. If you look up the dictionary meaning of mellow, you'll find all different types of meanings, but amongst them is it says the sweet essence of a subject. That's one of many meanings. It's not the usual, but that's one of the meanings of rasa or mellow. The sweet essence of a subject or a fruit or whatever like that. The rasa. Rasa. Amrita, what does Amrita mean? It can mean nectar, and it can also mean eternal. Usually we use the word to refer to nectar, Amrita, Charana Amrita. But it can also mean that which is eternal. And Sindhu, ocean. So it's the ocean and the nectarian mellows of devotional service. Quite a nice text. Prabhupada summarized it in simply the nectar of devotion. So this nectar, I can describe that meaning of the words. Prabhupada said, this is the subject of the nectar of devotion. To expand on the meaning of the very title itself, Bhakti, Rasa, Amrita, Siddhi. The eternal engagement in Bhakti Yoga can be understood by a serious student. Our eternal engagement, not our temporary one, but our eternal engagement, can be understood by a very serious student upon studying the nectar of devotion. We can understand what our eternal nature is. The process of devotional service, as it is recommended in the Nectar of Devotion, will gradually elevate one from the material condition of life to the spiritual status, wherein the devotee becomes purified of all designations. So this is an effect of studying the Nectar of Devotion and applying it. The Nectar of Devotion teaches us how to stimulate our original love for Krishna, and how to be situated in that position where we can enjoy our blissful life. That was just thought came to mind. It's just in the material world also sometimes when a person is so absorbed in a subject matter which they like or which they're attached to, they're quite oblivious. That means they're not really tuned in to anything else. Have you ever experienced that? you're so into a subject, somebody comes along, you don't even know where you are. You're so absorbed in something, you're totally out of connection with where you are or the persons around you. You're so absorbed in that particular subject matter. It could also be on the other side, fear. When you're in such a fearful situation, everything else goes to the side. If your life is threatened, you forget about all the problems, other problems which we're so absorbed in, isn't it? Eating, sleeping, they all whoop, out of the door. We've got an emergency here. Well, a devotee, he may not feel like this is an emergency in one sense, but in one sense they do. This human life can end at any moment, and they're always prepared for that moment. Prabhupada said, for instance, one time we should chant the holy name. Sometimes people would ask, devotees would ask, Prabhupada, how should we chant the holy name? Krishna. One time Prabhupada said you should chant as if this is your last breath. The last breath. If this is your last breath, then you might be, or we might be a little bit more, Krishna! I don't know how to use it. Like, monotonous kind of a drawl. But very attentive to what we're chanting. So nectar devotion will teach us ultimately how to stimulate our love for Krishna. When you love somebody, in loving relationships you have the same thing, a boy and a girl, when they're in love with each other, they don't care less almost what's happening everywhere else. Even if there's a war going on, they forget about it. Even if the house is falling down, they forget about it. Right? It's another absorption. That's a mundane or material example, but it's the same principle. When one's absorbed in Krishna consciousness, everything else becomes insignificant, no relevance. But when we're interacting with the world, then of course one has to take that into account and act accordingly. The theme, what is this theme? Our love can be fully satisfied only when it is reposed in Krishna. No other love will fully satisfy us, because although love is intrinsic or constitutional to the soul, when that love is, let's say, directed towards other conditioned souls, it is limited. Limited by time, that's for sure, and limited by reciprocation. The other person may or may not reciprocate, or they may change and your love is no longer there. What about them that you love may change, and thus your love becomes frustrated. It's not the same. So materially speaking, it's a shortcoming. But spiritually, that love is the nature of the soul. This theme of satisfying or reposing our love in Krishna is the sum and substance of the nectar of devotion, which teaches us how to love Krishna in 5 different transcendental mellows. You know what those 5 mellows are? Those 5 sweet tastes? What are they? Say one. One of them. Pardon? Shanta? Shanta Ras. What is that Shanta Ras? The word Ras is mellow. So Shanta means? Usually means peaceful. Shanti, huh? Neutral. Neutral Ras. In other words, there's no... In our relations, you may have a friendly relationship with somebody in terms of respect, in terms of, service of some kind, but it's not an intimate relationship, neither is it a very deeply personal relationship. We have that, for instance, with the chair. We're sitting on a chair with a floor, with a mattress, the house we live in. There's a kind of relationship, although its matter is dead, but there's a relationship there. It's neutral. There's no reciprocation involved as such. But your relationship with that is favorable. You look after the chair because you sit on it. Put down this chair and you smash it to pieces. You don't normally do that unless you're angry for some reason. But you have a neutral relationship. So that neutral, respectful relationship to the Lord, where one just shows respect, one just accepts the Lord for being great. It's mostly that's what most people's relationship is a neutral relationship. God is great, God is God, God is love, God is everywhere. And you're just kind of like reverential and love, like much deep love, but something is there. What's the next one? Dacia. What is Dacia? It's a French car, right? A car you can buy. I drive a Dacia car in France. You've heard of Dacia cars? You've heard of them? They have them here? Dacia? D-A-C-I-A. It's spelled differently, but pronounced the same, Dacia. I don't think they have them here. Is there? Huh? Well, it's made in Romania. It's actually a Renault car. It's a French car, Renault. But they make it in Romania, that's all. It's cheaper to make it there. But it's a French car, Renault. So what is Dacia in terms of devotion? Servitorship, direct service. You know, there's conscious, aware service. Not forced. Not forced, it's with a conscious awareness. You want to serve voluntarily. It's not a wage. Sometimes it can be that. It's not the proper, that's not the meaning of Dacia Rasa. How much do I get paid for this? How much they pay me for sitting here for 1 hour listening to this stuff? How much is he going to pay me? Stay calm, thank you for listening. But how much am I going to be paid? It's not like that. I cooked the lunch today, how much am I going to be paid? Now pay is not just money, by the way. We may think, I deserve respect. I deserve recognition. I deserve some privilege. That's also not Dasyas. It's not really service. It's a business arrangement. We expect something in return. Externally, we're asking something in return. So it's related, but it's very mixed with material karma mishra. And most religions are at best karma mishra, at best. We want something in return. Maybe we want freedom from sinful reactions, maybe we want some material goal fulfilled, or object obtained, elevation to heaven or liberation or something. These are all mixtures in terms of love. In loving relationship, you ask nothing in return. It's not a business arrangement. At least it's not supposed to be. So when the business side is there, or expectation side is there, it's mixed. And therefore one doesn't really progress as and until one, let's say, lets go of the mixture involved therein. It takes time. So Dasyaras, the voluntary service, which is supposed to be a hoitiki of the Jiyata. Is that right? Unmotivated, uninterrupted. It's not that, oh yes, I'm engaged in serving Krishna, I'm a devotee, I'm in Dasyaras. And then the next minute, you're in the pizza bar, enjoying, or in the, what's that new donut shop called? Huh? Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme. You have Krispy Kreme here in Malaysia? Krispy Kreme, Krispy Kreme, I don't know how you pronounce it. You have it in Malaysia? It's here already. Okay. I know about 40, 50 years ago when I first came here, I was suggesting the devotees to start pizza and donut shop. Because there were very few. Siddhi Sadhana started, I think, donuts about 40 years, 35, 40 years ago. Very successful. But pizzas were hardly here. Now it's like a rage. Pizzas are going all over the city on bicycles, everywhere, right? What's it called? Grab. The Grab delivery service. Going everywhere with pizzas. But 40, 50 years ago, there were practically no pizzas. We had great Italian cooks. We could have creamed up here. Donuts and pizzas. But anyway, that's another thing. But it's not a business deal like that. That after, or let's say a temporary thing. I serve Krishna once a week, and then the rest of the week I serve myself. I go to Krispy Kreme or some, vegetarian pizza store or something, and I enjoy myself. I go swimming in the swimming pool. He's holding his head down there. That's okay. Prabhupada said swimming is a good exercise. But most of the time we're thinking of ourselves. So it's mixed. Mixed, it's not pure. So nectar devotion teaches us how to come to pure devotion, not stay at the mixed level. So that's Dasya Ras. Different examples are given herein. And what's the next one? Pardon? Does anyone else know, or is it only a one lady show here? We say one man, but you have to say one woman show. What was your name again? Pardon? Panini? 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 Malini? Malini? Priya? Malini Priti Devi Dasi seems to know all the answers. Does anyone else know another one of the 5 rasas or mellow relationships? Can also mean relationship. Yes. Sakyaras. What is Sakyaras? Huh? Friendship. Now that comes a little higher, doesn't it? It's not something that can... The first 2 are accessible. The remaining 3 are only accessible after a certain point of advancement. You can't really say, you can say that, but you can't act like that. I am Krishna's friend. Well, eternally speaking, maybe. At our present stage, you have to know what that means. If you say to someone, I'm a friend of... Who's the most famous person in the world? Who is the most famous person? Who? Who? Bill Gates? Maybe, I don't know. Is he the most famous? He is famous. You can't just say, I'm a friend. I had this experience. I was, when I was young, teenager, I used to play a sport. One of my friends was a professional sportsman. He wasn't a very deep friend, but we were a friend. We would go out together drinking, sometimes playing other sports together, sometimes. Some kind of friend was there. So you could say some kind of friend. It wasn't the deepest, but it was there. And he was an international footballer. So sometimes, once in a while, once a week, we would go out together. So I'm a friend. So I can say, I was a friend of so-and-so. I went to, and I was in the town where he was living one day, on Sankirtan, and he had a shop. He retired about 10 years, 12 years ago. And he had a sports shop. So I went in to see, hey, Don, how are you? Remember the old friends? He said, I'd never seen you before. Get out of my shop. I was dressed like this, I don't want to know you. Get out of here. He was totally negative, 100% negative. He didn't even make an effort to look at me, practically, or even hear a word I said beyond that. So, obviously, it's not a very deep friendship. So from my point, I was proud, and I thought, Krishna smashed that one. But friendship is not just a casual passing thing in this case. It's an eternal constitutional relationship. In this world, we may have friendships that last throughout one lifetime. Maybe in the next lifetime, without knowledge, they may continue. But they're all limited. But it's something which is very... Again, it's a friend in need is a friend indeed. You've heard that saying? A friend in need is a friend indeed. It's not just a friend when things are going your way, but when you're in difficulty, they're the ones who really come forward to help you. And they'll do anything to help you. Because they love you. It's not a different type of love. It's a friendship love. So that's something which, in relation with Krishna, really develops when we have a loving relationship with Krishna. It's not just a service relationship or a neutral relationship. relationship, but something very personal. Very personal. That's described at great length in the Nectar of Devotion. What's the next one? Vatsalya, which is parental or fraternal. What is that? Like a mother or father, huh? Mother and father love their children like nobody loves them, generally speaking. Even the husband doesn't love the wife the same as the father and mother love her as a daughter, of course. Different type of love, which is on a very materially speaking, at least on perhaps the highest material in most cases. That love of the mother. And we may wonder, what's that got to do with spirituality? Well, if we read carefully, you'll see that nothing can exist in this world unless it has its origins in the transcendental spiritual plane. That one can become, up to now, you can say, servant of the Lord, or maybe equal in some ways. But now we're seeing a parent. In one sense, the parent is in a superior position, controlling the Lord, protecting the Lord. This is an even higher form of love. The spiritual world's main constituency is unlimited love, pure love. So this is a higher form of unalloyed, loving devotion, the mood of parental love towards Krishna. Krishna reciprocates and takes a position to receive that loving affection. Again, this is something which is not to be imitated, it's not to be tried to practice in this world, not until one's naturally, completely pure at heart and that natural flow of attraction develops within. And that's another subject. So parental love and the highest love, spiritual. What is that? Anyone else know? Pardon? Conjugal. What is conjugal? Madhurya is a term, Madhurya, but what, and further that in English. There's no real comparison to that in the material world, because in the material world this is seen as being perhaps the lowest of activities. It comes in two branches. So one of them is I could say, is acceptable to people in general. The other one's not. The highest one. Even the relationship. What's fakir ras? What is fakir ras? Svakia. The relationship of marriage, husband-wife. This is also conjugal, but it's not as, let's say, enriched as the other branch of conjugal love, which is Bharakiya, which in this world is condemned in general, but we won't discuss that at all right now because it's so elevated topic and one has to go through the other stages before. And what can we discuss anyway? We can only repeat what we hear from here. But even that we will not touch on. But it's the highest of all, the relationship with the Supreme Lord in the mood of a let's say, unmarried relationship, or even in the mood of a paramour, which is, materially speaking, is not, maybe now it's not considered much, but traditionally it's looked down upon as the lowest behavior. So the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. So you take a tree, when you see a tree reflected in the water, it's the opposite way around. So that which is lowest, you could say, in the material world can be the highest in the spiritual, because there it's all purely related to Krishna. But I'll read on some of the points of the Nectar of Devotion. So that's one of the things. 5 different rasas. The Nectar of Devotion teaches all men how to perform the simple and natural method of loving Krishna, the Supreme Personality of God. How everyone can love Him, no matter what we're doing, no matter what we are. Even a so-called criminal can love Krishna. Everyone's eligible. The nectar of devotion will teach us how to turn the one switch that will immediately brighten everything, everywhere. One who does not know this method is missing the point of life. One switch. When we understand the position of Krishna, understand our relation with Krishna, even this material world is a blissful place. It's no longer the material world. One sees Krishna's presence everywhere. One feels His presence everywhere. This is the nectar of devotion. Teaches us how to turn that switch. Just like when it's dark at night, we only have a vague idea of what's there. Simply by turning on the light, you can see what's there, at least in that room. Or when the sun rises, you can see within the range of our vision what's there. At night, we cannot tell. It's very vague. So nectar devotion turns that one switch. The nectar of devotion will give us practical hints how we can live in this material world perfectly engaged in devotional service and thus fulfill all of our desires in this life and the next. For most people that would mean something material. That's not what it means. When we look at the root, there's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita which goes Javan Apu Kane something Todake. The second chapter, I think it's for 44 or 45, something like that. Where Krishna says, all purposes served by a small pond are automatically served by the large reservoir of water. Look, whatever you find in a small pond, more or less, you'll find in the great ocean. The pond gets its water from the great ocean anyway. It's just an expansion of the ocean. Similarly, one who knows the purpose behind the Vedas, all purposes are served. All the purpose of the Vedas is served. What's the purpose of the Veda? One point is to know Krishna. Another purpose is to live happily in this world. For materialistic persons, it's to live happily in this world. So it's to live happily that we're looking for. It's not to live in this world, it's to be happy in this world. You can live in this world forever if you want. That doesn't mean you'll be happy. People want to be happy. Underlying, you could say, motive for most people is the quest for happiness, search for happiness. Whether we look here or there or whatever, the search for happiness, it'll be different from person to person because we all have different karma, we all have different desires, and we all have different conditioning. But the principle is the same. Where can I find happiness? So the meaning here is that the one switch which will satisfy all of one's desires. Our desires are generally based about trying to make arrangements for happiness. Finding a place that's nice, a person that's nice, a food that's nice, a program that's nice, a dress that's nice, whatever. Everything to try to bring about happiness in our lives as much as possible. So if one's actually happy, the nectar devotion teaches us how to be really happy, internally happy. And one no longer has any, it's called Prundrishva Nivartate. You know that verse from Bhagavad Gita? Who knows that verse? Second chapter, text 59. Look it up. 259, the higher taste. Ishaya vinivatante niraharasya denaha vasavajam vasokyasya parandrishva nevartate. You know that verse? It's one of the famous verses of Gita. Ishaya vinivatante niraharasya denaha. The second part of the verse, the first part. Second part, Vasavajam Vasogyasya Paramrishvanavati. What does that mean? Read it. Yes, but by experiencing a higher taste, param drishta devakti, a higher taste, one becomes fixed in consciousness. One is no longer disturbed. One is satisfied within. When one is satisfied within, one is not anchoring without. In other words, one is on what's called the Brahma. You know this verse, I'm sure you will know this one. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. Nasochiti, Nakamshiti. One who is situated on this Brahman or spiritual platform is no longer disturbed by the modes of nature, above the modes. And in that state, Nashochiti, Nakamshiti, there's no more anchoring. There's no more lamentation. And real devotional service begins at that point. That's when one can really enter into the nectar of devotion. When one comes to that platform, Brahmabhuta, the spiritual plane, the nectar of devotion teaches us how to come to that Brahmabhuta platform, that spiritual plane, and then the real devotion. That's why usually if you do take it back to let's go back to, what's that course we're taking? Not Bhakti Vaibhav, what's it called? Bhakti Shastri. Of course, you will study nectar of devotion, but you'll only study the first 19 chapters. You won't go beyond that. Which deal with sadhana bhakti, the process of bringing us to the Brahmabhuta platform, basically. Spiritual platform. Then, having come to that platform, then man bhaktim lavate param, pure devotional service begins. Then one's eligible to understand or to begin to absorb the essence or the other parts of the nectar of devotion. I'll finish the last two comments here. Our love can be fully satisfied. We just read that. Okay. The nectar of devotion will give us practical hints how we can live in this material world perfectly engaged in devotional service and thus fulfill all of our desires in this life and in the next. And the beginning stages, that also includes material connections, material needs, etc. The nectar of devotion is not presented to condemn any way of materialistic life, but the attempt is to give information to religionists, philosophers, and people in general how to love Krishna. One may live without material discomfort, but at the same time he should learn the art of loving Krishna. At the present moment we are inventing so many ways to utilize our propensity to love, but factually we are missing the real point, Krishna. We are watering all parts of the tree, but missing the tree's root. We are trying to keep our body fit by all means, but we are neglecting to supply foodstuffs to the stomach. In other words, we're not serving Krishna. Missing Krishna means missing oneself also. Real self-realization and realization of Krishna go together simultaneously. For example, seeing oneself in the morning means seeing the sunrise also. Without seeing the sunrise, no one can see himself. Similarly, unless one has realized Krishna, there's no question of self-realization. If we don't know who we are as the eternal servant of Krishna. The nectar of devotion is specifically presented for persons who are now engaged in the Krishna consciousness movement. So those are just some comments in the preface, the beginning, that which goes before, the nectar of devotion of Prabhupada on this great literature, a book which he himself presented to the world in 1970, before, I think even before the Bhagavad Gita. He presented the nectar of devotion. Krishna book, Nectar of Devotion, they all came out about the same time. The first volume of the Bhagavad Gita may have just come out also, around about the same time. So Prabhupada considered these 4 books: Nectar of Devotion. What other ones? Come on. If you don't know, let someone else who doesn't know tell us. Okay, which 4 books did Prabhupada say is all you need? Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar Devotion, Chaitanya Charitamrita. All you need, everything is there for self-realization in these 4 books. And Prabhupada presented these 4 books to the world for everyone's benefit. Nectar Devotion, especially to give us practical guidance in practicing devotional service. And when Prabhupada took initiation, his spiritual master told him to read it daily, to read this Nectar Devotion daily. So please, I know you're very busy people. I'm sure you can find a minute or 2 a day to read the Nectar Devotion. I'm sure if you really look at their schedule. I remember there was one time Danavir Goswami, who was then a Grihastha, he asked Prabhupada, not Prabhupada, he asked the temple commander, maybe he was a brahmachari then, before he got married. He asked the temple commander if he could have time for reading every day. They were so busy in service. In those days the both were really busy. Service meant you started at 9:30 and you finished at 6:30. Then you started again at 9:15 and finished at 9:45 or 10 o'clock every day. That meant a whole morning program and a whole evening program as well. So it wasn't like we had any break. There was no break at all. Not 1 minute break in the day. Not 1 minute. So the temple commander said, no. You can't have extra time for reading. You attend morning and evening class, which Prabhupada said 1 hour in the morning and 1 hour in the evening is sufficient. Prabhupada writes that. People don't do it anymore. Not always anyway. But that was what Prabhupada said, or wrote. He said, if there is any extra time, you can read. The temple commander happened to be Vishnu Jan Swami at the time. Said, if you want to read, you have to find time, but you're not going to reduce your service. So he thought about it, and he realized, there was at least 15 minutes around Prasadam time which he could read. Waiting for Prasadam, hanging around talking too long after honoring Prasadam, spacing out, just joking. Then Sankirtan, 9:45 to get in the vehicle for Sankirtan. Waiting 15 minutes for everyone to get aboard. Get there straight away, don't waste time. Sit and read, so he had another 15 minutes. And then on the way to Sankirtan, another 15 to 30 minutes. The way back from Sankirtan, another 15 to 30 minutes. Again, lunch, because they had lunch outside. Some more time. He ended up with over 2 hours reading a day without changing anything else whatsoever. It's how we use our time. We always think we have no time. We spend our time sometimes talking about, I have no time. I have no time. I got no time to read. I got no time. If we even utilize the time we say we've got no time, at least that would be some time. Utilize our time chanting and reading. Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj gave one instruction to his disciples to chant 64 rounds a day. You know that? Most of them were grihasthas. Can you imagine if you had to chant 64 rounds a day? Some of you are working, some of you are studying, some may be retired, some may be lazy, they're not doing anything. It's the ones who are lazy who have the most difficult time to chant 64 rounds. They have a saying in English, if you want something done, ask the person who is most busy. Ask the busiest person you can find if you want something done. Don't ask someone who's not, because they don't want to do it. They're not busy because they don't want to be busy. They're lazy people. Ask somebody who's busy. That's just the same in English. So he gave 64 rounds. And for the grihasthas, especially the men, working all day. Guru Maharaj once said, Maharaj, I can't chant, I've got no time to chant 64 rounds. I'm so busy. Maharaj said, I know how busy you are. Of course, they didn't have mobile phones and televisions and computers in those days. There was less excuse, you could say. But he said, I know how busy you are gossiping. and wasting your time in frivolous activity, you have plenty of time to finish 64 rounds if you just don't make the effort. Grihastas. And as she said, I've given 64 rounds primarily to my Grihasta disciples, not the sannyasis. They don't need to chant 64 rounds. Because they're already fully engaged in devotional service. Supposed to be. So anyway, don't take it wrongly, but try to utilize our time. We do need our recreation, we do need our rest, we do need time with the family, of course we do. But whatever time is spare, try to utilize it in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar Devotion, like that. Try to utilize it. Don't waste it. Hare Krishna, any questions? Any answers? Have you got any answers? What are you going to do? Keep calm. Stay calm. Don't panic. It's all right. Do what you can. Do what you can. Don't do what you can't do. Don't waste time doing what we cannot do. Do what you can do. Any questions? Jagabandhu? Whoa, that's a very important question. Does Lord Balaram perform, because we word it, that the old words will perform the 5 rasas? Oh, does. Is he present? Let's put it another way. Is he present in all 5 rasas? Let's put it a different way. The answer to that is yes, in one sense. In another sense, you could say it appears that he's in Sakiras, sometimes a little fraternal ras, sometimes a little bit dasya ras, but primarily we'd say he'd be in Sakyarasa. But he is in all the rasas, even as Balaram in relation to Krishna, there is an element of paternal affection there, for sure. He's the elder brother, Gauji. So he has a paternal relationship with Krishna in a certain way. Dasya is always serving him. Sometimes he massages his feet, sometimes he's doing various services for Krishna like that. And he's obviously served every devotee. Dasya rasa is the prominent rasa because it's present in all rasas. Because dasya means pleasing Krishna. It's not doing what we want. It means acting in a way which brings pleasure to Krishna. So dasya is there in all the rasas, although it's not prominent in its characteristics. But it's the underlying presence of the mood of bringing pleasure to Krishna in all the rasas. So he's certainly present there. Neutrality, yes, he expands. Even Goloka Vrindavan is an expansion from Lord Balaram, providing all of the various backdrops, all the facilities in Vrindavan for the pastimes. They're expansions of Krishna directly, of Balaram, directly expansion of Krishna, like the couch, the umbrella, the fan. All these things are direct expansions of Lord Balaram, the mridanga, the instruments. Everything is a direct, it's an expansion of Lord Balaram, so neutrality. So he's certainly present there, very much so, dominantly. But that's not his main relationship with Krishna, that's one of his roles. But Balaram is not an ordinary living entity. He is an expansion himself, directly with Krishna. But he plays all these roles. And in Madhurya Ras, which one say, well, where the heck is Balaram in Madhurya Ras? When Radharani sees, what is it? White pearls, she turns the opposite way and goes the opposite direction because they represent Balaram and his party. They won't go near it. They're like 2 different worlds apart. But they're very close also. Without going through Lord Balaram in his form of Nityananda, one cannot get Radharani's mercy. And on that platform of Madhurya Ras, Balaram is in the form of Ananga Manjari, Radharani's sister. Without the mercy of Radharani, without mercy of Ananga Manjari, one doesn't get the mercy of Radharani. So they're all related. It's a transcendental, you could say, arrangement there with Lord himself. But Lord Balaram is there to facilitate or to help the living entities enter into the various relationships. He's the guru in that. Radharani is the guru of Madhurya Ras. But even there, without Lord Nityananda or Lord Balaram's, blessings, she doesn't give that opportunity to the living entities. So he's present in all the rasas in that way. He doesn't manifest it, you could say, in particular pastimes directly, but he's present there, behind the scene or in an unseen way in all the relationships, because he is the Adi Guru, he's the Guru guiding us towards our eternal relationship with Krishna. So if you don't know something, how can you do that? If the Guru has no access to Madhurya Ras, he can't be a Guru to someone whose natural relationship is Madhurya Ras. You can only teach up to the point of one's own adhikar or one's own eligibility. Anything else? Have to do more kirtan, I think. There's not. You need more kirtan. I see many of you are very stiff. Of course, some are a little bit older. Some of you are over 30 already. Anyone over 30? Over 30 years of age? Not many. Nowadays, over 30, you're already thinking I'm too old. Back aching, knees aching, diabetic, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. You're only 35 years old. I went to the first time. I rarely go to the doctor, maybe in my whole life, only if I have to go for some tests or something, because there's something around us. But otherwise, I've hardly been to the doctors a few times. We go for some tests, and occasionally here and there we have to go like anyone else, but not very often. But one time I went to the doctor, I had a terrible back pain. First thing he asked me is how old was I? I said I was 30, I said 19. Yeah, I was 31 years old. He said, what do you expect at this age? 31 years old. What do you expect? 31 years old, can you imagine? And he said, what do you expect? You're 31 now. Sometimes, they were 30 years old and they got back problems. Incredible. Even younger sometimes. Something's wrong, isn't it? You should be like that at that age. Maybe when you're 70, 80, 90 years old, you might expect something, but it shouldn't be like that. We're not fit, we're not working. We're sitting behind computers. Totally unnatural. Driving cars. Totally unnatural. Washing this, washing that. So when just natural things work, natural thing. And if we're rightly situated, that work will keep us fit also. Unnatural world that we live in. We get sick very easily. Some of us are Vaishnava Pika Prabhu. He's in his upper years of his life. He's over 50, over 60, over 70, over 80. Most of us are not 80 plus. 80 plus, you could say, even then you could still be very fit. Not always the case, but you don't have to be a cripple. Stay fit. So keeping fit is useful. So I see most of you are not very, let's say, flexible. Dancing in kirtan, look at stiff. Not doing enough dancing in kirtan. Too much computer work. Too much on the mobile. You're very mobile on the phone. Not mobile when it comes to dancing much. And so you'd be amazed how, if you can't do it, you can't do it. Simple as that. Or you don't want to do it, that's your choice. But, if you can and you do it, then, you'd be amazed what an effect it has on the consciousness. If you're not dancing in the ballrooms or attracting a boy or a girl, or to make money, or just to have a materially good time, dancing is approved by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is Sankirtan, dancing, chanting, and feasting. Part of Lord Chaitanya's mission. Isn't it? But most of us hardly dance once a week, if at all. Even they go on Rath Yatra, they simply walk pulling the rope the whole time, which is fine. But there's no dancing going on, is there? Sometimes there's no chanting going on. Half the time the devotees are pulling the rope and not chanting. I've seen it, isn't it? walking along talking, sometimes looking at their mobile during the Rathayatra, talking to each other. That's not what the Rathayatra is for. Not at all. Feasting, they're good at that. I give you credit. We give credit there. Everyone's pretty good at the feasting part. Got 1/3 right. Probably did say 30% is pass rate, so I guess you managed to go over 30% for passing. Feasting. Anything else? Yes. Wait, this is going to be difficult to hear. If we turn off the fans for 1 minute, I can hear the fans. See, when you get older, one of the things which is very common, when there are two sounds going on at once, you cannot hear anything at all, practically. It's like that. If you turn the fans off, I can hear you. That's why in Naimisharanya, even the birds stopped moving, the leaves stopped moving, the air stopped moving. You can do that also. I might get it here, maybe not even with that.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, why are we particularly known as why are we known as the Rupa Nugas when both Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami, Lord Chaitanya gave instructions to them to write literatures, etc. And Sanatana Goswami is elder than Rupa Goswami, but why are we particularly known as the followers of Rupa Goswami?
Why are we particularly known as followers of Rupa Goswami and not of Sanatana Goswami? Is that the question? Or any other Goswami come to that? Or why Rupa Goswami or why Sanatana Goswami? We're not Gauranga. Or why not anyone come to that, right? Prabhupada. Well, we are Prabhupada Nugas. We are followers of Sanatana Goswami. And we are followers of Lord Chaitanya. So it's not that we aren't. It's not like there's any difference between them in terms of the objective goals, but they have different roles to play. Rupa Goswami was accepted at that time, although he would look at Sanatana Goswami as his own spiritual master, practically speaking. He offers his obeisances in the beginning of Nectar of Devotion to Sanatana Goswami as his senior, say, spiritual guide, or whatever you want to call it, in a sense. So why are we known as Rupa Nugas, followers of Rupa Goswami? Because he was established, all the residents of Vrindavan, he was established as the most prominent exponent, you could say, of Vaishnava literatures at that time. And then Jiva Goswami followed in his footsteps. He was a disciple of Rupa Goswami, so he followed his footsteps. And then from Jiva Goswami came to Jiva, whoever it is, following on Jiva's footsteps down throughout the Parampara, down to the present day, to where Srila Prabhupada. So Rupa Goswami was the initiating guide of our Parampara. From him, we initiated Jiva Goswami. This way it came down through the line. So he's the prominent, in that sense, link in our Parampara, although it may be, as you say, he's physically speaking, junior to Sanatana Goswami. Spiritually, you can't say one's greater than the other. And they're both manjaris, they're both eternal associates, they're both on that absolute platform, as is Raghunath Das, as is the other Goswamis. But amongst the Goswamis, Rupa Goswami was held as the leading exponent. He produced the basic foundational literatures and guidance for Jiva Goswami, etc., etc. So he's held like that in our line as the prominent, after Lord Chaitanya, the prominent Acharya to pass on this message of Lord Chaitanya. He was given this instruction specifically, and primarily he produced that in the form of this Nectar of Devotion and many other literatures also. So they're not to minimize Sanatana Goswami. From another angle, you see that Sanatana Goswami is he's the Sambandha Acharya, the one who gives the initial connection. But the Abhideya Acharya is Rupa Goswami. He's the one who teaches the path of devotional service. So Sanatana Goswami is considered to be like Madhava Mohan Dedi, for instance, established by Sanatana Goswami. The approach there for connection. But there's Rupa Goswami who is giving the actual substance, the actual preaching, or the actual teaching of the path of bhakti. So in that sense, he's the prominent acharya. Now, when one comes to the level of Raganuga Bhakti, then that's also taught by Rupa Goswami up to the highest level of Prema Bhakti. But then one's relationships and one's associations may evolve. Raghunath Das Goswami is the Prayojana Acharya. Then he may become prominent. So it depends what stage one is on. But for practicing devotees, Rupa Goswami is the Acharya who's given that Abhideya, the Abhideyas. Sanatan Abhideya Rupa Goswami, like that. So these are Abhideya Acharya, teaching the path of devotion, so more than anyone else. He was accepted like that by the other Goswamis and by the other great devotees of the time. You see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Krishna Das Kaviraj office, Rupa and Raghunath. Rupa is the Abhideya, and Raghunath is because he's also Manjari, as his eternal Prayojana Acharya. Anything else? Okay, we'll finish there.